The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hello again. This is Ralph Boehm for a legislative update, and with my co-host
Erica Layon from Derry.
Right, so we have a bunch of things to cover today. Parental rights, games Senate plays, and the governor's situation. But first, as happens every year, we take a class photo of all the reps. Now, sometimes it's been done outside, like yesterday, and sometimes it's done inside. Now, the thing is here, if we can blow this up a bit, there am I between the columns, because our Deputy Chief of Staff, Deborah Childs, said she wanted me there. and Maureen Mooney is on the other side. And there, if we blow this up, in sunglasses, there's our Erica and wearing her pink outfit and sunglasses, so we wouldn't recognize her, but we recognized her.
I took out the glasses for the official picture.
Right, this wasn't the official picture. People were just going around. And what I thought was really cute was Deborah. I was wondering, what's this? When I say smile, everybody smiles. So she had this big white cardboard thing, and then when she turned it around, it was a smiley face. Mm-hmm. I mean, which instantly got everybody to smile. But the official picture will be out soon. So anyway, yeah, so just, hey, sometimes, and we're all together, you know, as the Democrats are, and nobody was killing each other.
We were all nicely mixed in with lots of beautiful faces showing. It was great to see.
Yeah,
it really was.
Yeah, picking out people. There's our clerk Melissa, and there's over here is Deb Hobson on the Education Committee, and yeah, so and others. So who can we recognize? No, so just let you know what now. Okay, I'll close that, and now we'll go to parental rights. Some bad news. This was the bill to anything that happens in your school with your kids, the parent's supposed to know about it. Parental rights, except if it's an abuse thing or other laws covering that. Now, one thing, just to give you an insight on it, we were looking at an amendment to a bill on the same thing for parental rights and house education. So here's my speech on that, so you can see what basically it's happening. Psychologists or aren't there medical insurance for the parents probably going to have to pay? Unless it's DCYF or something like that, or abuse, then the parents need to know. There are other laws which say if the children are being abused, there are other laws that take care of that without the parents knowing. But the problem is, the parents are responsible, so they need to know what is going on with their children. It is not the school's responsibility to take care of the children. The parents have. Thank you. Yeah, the big problem is what's happening in schools.
Thank you. The Department of Education.
You need to stop that. Okay. The problem is schools are taking it upon themselves to counsel kids, send kids to psychologists or counseling terms for not abuse, but for other things. And it's getting ridiculous. The students do not belong to the school, they belong to the parents. And schools are getting way out of control on maybe they should just start teaching education and not other things. So you know a little bit more about what was in the bill.
Absolutely. So the intention was to share that it's a fundamental right of parents to direct the upbringing, education, and care of their minor children, and that important information relating to a minor child should not be withheld, either inadvertently or purposefully, from his or her parent, including information relating to the minor's education. And that it's necessary to establish a consistent mechanism for the parents to be notified relating to the health, education, and well-being of their minor children. So as we looked through this, there was a lot of concern about what would happen if there was an abusive situation, but it was specifically called out in here. It said that basically when it's having all of this talking about that you need to share what's going on with your student, that the school's not going to keep secrets away from the parents. I know when I went to school, the schools told me, if an adult asks you to keep a secret, tell your parents.
Right.
Which is just a good idea. But it sounds like now they're saying if the school tells you to keep a secret, don't tell your parents, which I think is really, really put everything upside down on its head. So there's a concern about, well, what if you have an abusive parent? Well,
That's already coming.
are you going to assume that every parent is abusive? Or are we going to look at the fact that the law says that the employee, one of the biggest things is it says an employee who encourages or coerces them to withhold information from their parents who is not suspected of a criminal offense against the minor, and sharing of information would not impede an investigation of a criminal offense against the minor. That was the limit. So if there's something criminal, schools are mandatory reporters. If they truly think that Johnny's going to get beat by his parents because he has a bad report card, he joined a club, or he is expressing himself differently, that's a criminal offense that needs to be reported as a mandatory reporter. We've seen the failings when mandatory reporters stay silent. We've seen this too often in this country. So there's already that mechanism there. And if the parent isn't abusive, the parent should be assumed to care for their child. That's what the purpose of this bill was, to say that the parents are the parents and not the school.
Right.
So it's really a tragedy that this didn't pass.
Right, yeah, it failed 171 to 176. Every Democrat voted against it. And in our case, we had 13 Republicans. Now, the platform on the Republicans is parental rights. So, but anyway, here is the list of names. You can bring it up again. And of all the Republicans, so if you see this in your town, and it's been posted all over different Facebooks, of the people, the Republicans that didn't vote for being Republicans what they should have. I was concerned about how it was going to come out of the Senate, but it came out of the Senate to pass. But unfortunately, there's my argument too is, if you look at the numbers there, that's 347. Where are the other 40 reps? We have something like 388, 389 reps. I mean, because someone died, resigned, or whatever. But again, like what the previous session too, we're like 40, 50 people short. I mean, you elected. Now, there are some people that, for example, if we look at other here, I mean, it shows those people that were excused. For example, Keith Ammon, he's in the hospital, had a car accident. But others excused, but then there are those not excused. Where were they? You know? I mean, why weren't they there to vote? I mean, we're getting paid to vote. I mean, it's not much, we're elected to vote for the people. So anyway, here are the names of the people of the, not that were, okay, back to the nays, okay. Joe Alexander, James Allard, Mike Bordas, Joseph DePalma, Deborah DeSimone, which she's the chair of a committee, Ed Gordon, John Graham, Joseph Guthrie, Bonnie Ham, Kimberly Rice is the speaker pro tem, she's put Claire Rollard, John Sytek, and Dan Wolf. Dan Wolf is, he should, I mean, somebody's got to primary him. But the point is, that's what killed the bill. So parental rights, and that's what I run on, that's what most Republicans run. Your parents have a right to know what's going on in school. And we found out from, interesting, I mean, with the COVID thing, where schools were remote, parents found out what's being taught to their schools and up in arms about that. Now this too is what's going on in the schools about, and some people actually calling it grooming. I mean, for kids, if the teacher is not obliged, or somebody in the school, to tell the parents, how the parents got to know what's going on at the school. That's not a criminal nature. I mean, just...
And grooming's a really harsh word, but when you're having secrets, especially about sexuality or other things with a student, that's over a line.
Right.
Just because there's sex in schools, but we shouldn't be promoting talking about it.
No.
You know, just kind of like we can't promote prayer in schools.
Right.
Even though as long as there's tests, there will be prayer in schools.
Right. Right, yes.
Yes.
But the thing is, I mean, we ran across this, like, for example, with Boy Scouts. And the Boy Scouts rule is, there's always got to be two people, two scout leaders. And then even with the boys themselves, you got to be in pairs of two at least. You know, so, I mean, maybe schools should do the same thing. No kid can be in the classroom by themselves with any adult. You know, I mean, but this is getting ridiculous what's happening in the schools.
Yeah, and
and why parents are taking their kids out of schools if there's another place for them to go.
It's disappointing. So many people who are really in the middle in my town really want to know what's going on in schools and make sure that there's not secrets.
Right.
And it's just, it's really leaving a bad taste in their mouth. And I'm really disappointed we weren't able to deliver this for them.
But I'm sure it'll come up next year, and maybe we'll have a decent majority, and we'll cover something else on that later. But also, okay, let's move on now to HB 1661. This bill started as a career tech education. Now, I don't know if it is. That's when our kids go from Campbell to Alvern to take some career courses. We had a committee on it, and I was on it, and we were doing this. And this bill was to make school districts, sending school districts, fix their calendars the same as the CTE school district. Now, when I was on the school board, I did this. We set our policy to, and it's not that now, we set our policy to be the same as Hudson's. There's no calendar. There's no reason for it not to be. I mean, you schedule your days the same as Hudson schedules theirs. They have teacher days and all that kind of stuff also. So you set the calendars and the days off, your start date and your end date, and that way the kids going to the career tech aren't missing anything. And this bill, a lot of that was to limit what schools can do to 10 days. We wanted to make it 5, but we got pushed back. So initially got to start at 10, but that passed the House, passed the committee, and passed the first vote, but it had money involved, so it had to go to finance. Now, finance, as I remember I brought this up before, we need a new garage. Okay? It actually is falling down. And there's money available from ARPA and other funds to help pay for that garage and taking down another building, moving the Attorney General's office and those kind of things. But they added that to it, which a lot of us didn't like. Why didn't they put it onto something else? But anyway, that passed. So it goes over to the Senate. Now, this is the part of my Senate games thing. Now, it's always been in the past, if we kill something, a Senate bill that they want, they'll attach it to one of our bills, okay? And vice versa. They do it more than we do, though. But to me, of the 14 years I've been there, this has got to be the most abusive way of doing it. Okay, we killed SB 400, which was a workforce housing bill, and a lot of other zoning stuff that would take away zoning from your town and cause other problems. And I think, Erica, you can cut to that in a minute. But the point was, and also SB 430, which remember when we discussed, that was the big 72 thing bill when I was honored to sit in on HHS and for 11 and a half hours. But there was an amendment to that. But normally, if that amendment, there would normally be, the Senate would say, okay, we don't like that amendment, we'll call a committee of conference for that. But no, they didn't. We tabled SB 400, edited but they said, we'll just add it to HB 1661. And actually, when it was in committee of conference, I won't play it, but I have it, where the chair of the committee of conference, Rick Ladd, made the comment about, well, really 400 and 430 shouldn't be here. The Senator Bradley made the comment, well, you need the garage. The garage is a safety issue. By them just deliberately adding bills they wanted to this bill was totally abusive. I mean, anyway, so SB 400, if you want to discuss we took out a lot of that stuff, so it wasn't, but some in there.
There was very, very little of Senate Bill 400 left, but what it left was allowing public use for municipals, so your towns or cities, to include the town or city acquiring property to construct housing units that meet the definition of workforce housing, whether or not it's private development or private commercial enterprise. So that allows the towns or cities, if the people vote for it, to become developers. And it gets worse.
That means also that since it's a town-owned thing, it doesn't pay property taxes.
It wouldn't pay property taxes, and they're competing against all the other landowners and all the people who are in town.
Right.
And then it goes on further in the next one, section 79. It allows them to acquire, if they pass this in the town or city, to acquire, construct, reconstruct, improve, alter, extend, operate, maintain, or promote residential developments aimed at increasing the available housing stock within the municipality. That means that if people aren't building the houses, your town or city will get into both building and operating. So there'll be a developer and a landlord. To me, it wouldn't matter what those two things were stuck to. We could have any of these bills that were so crucial to us this year. It could have been put on Parents' Bill of Rights, and I wouldn't have voted for that just because making towns and cities landlords should be unacceptable to anybody who believes that these things should be private developments.
And that's called socialism.
It is. Yeah. It is. It's pure socialism.
The thing is, yes, we need low-income housing, workforce housing, but in my comments, it's called supply and demand. Mm-hmm. And it should be based on what's needed in your town or city. For example, I believe Litchfield on its own has enough workforce housing for what's needed in Litchfield. We have 3 trailer parks, we have a number of apartments, Page Road, and others in town. So what's going to happen, and same way with Hollis. Yeah, we know Hollis has got 2-acre, 3-acre, 5-acre lot sizes, which is utterly ridiculous. But that's what their people voted for. And I'm sure Hollis also has enough workforce housing for what's needed in Hollis. And it wouldn't be fair for even Litchfield for that law to have come effect where we build low-income housing or workforce housing for Manchester. So we would have to pay taxes for the schools and stuff like that. And one of the arguments was, well, you have places that have elderly housing, like we have some in Litchfield. You also have to have like under 35 housing. Now my argument on that is, so when people reach 35, you kick them out. I mean, that's some of that stuff they're putting in doesn't make sense.
And so this is even worse in Derry, because Derry's a bedroom community. We have very, very little commercial or industrial development at all. It's all paid for by the residential property taxpayers. We have the Fairways, which is a very, very large apartment development that brought us a new middle school when it was developed, which increased the taxes more, and they don't pay the taxes to cover the increased schools, police, fire, and everything else that goes with it. So there's already 2 more large apartment buildings that are planned to go in Derry. So we're already increasing the housing stock when we don't have the jobs in our town. People are going down to Boston and taking jobs in Massachusetts and all over the place, and not working in Derry and not having thriving companies in Derry. Right. We made the I think we made the cloth for the uniforms. for the Revolutionary War.
Yeah.
Derry was an old mill town that made a lot, and now all we do is make our bed before we go to work.
Right. And I mean, Londonderry, for them, look at all the apartment houses they've been building in Londonderry over the last few years. And even Hudson is building a few. And Nashua is building a whole bunch. So, but still the supply is not needed. I mean, needs more supply in those three communities. Londonderry is going like crazy. You know, with the airport is actually in Londonderry. You know, so FedEx and UPS and all those buildings, FW Webb and whatnot, those are in Londonderry. So yeah, they need people to work there, but don't have to live in Litchfield to work in Londonderry. I mean, to me, and that was one of the problems with the workforce house, SB 400, which we killed, and luckily they took most of the stuff out of that to get 1661 to pass, which it did.
And these two poison pills do require the town or city to vote for it. So it's yet another reason people need to show up and vote, especially for the towns that meet in March, and most people forget about that election.
Yeah.
So people need to show up for those.
Yeah.
So if I can talk about Senate Bill 430 that's in there.
Yeah.
That was the large Senate bill that did a lot of very important things. Right now, we know that Medicare is directing how we run our hospitals, and that's why the House thought that the cash or membership hospitals were so important. We had attached them. We thought we were going to be able to work on that together, but the Senate killed that early on, so the only chance of passing that was in 1661. I was really disappointed because even if we didn't get all the way there, we should have had a path to have more discussion, because we just can't let DC set our policies. So between the two... No, that's why I ended up voting with 98 of my other friends against it, not on the 430 issue, but on the 400.
Right, yeah. The 430, the 400 we killed in the House. So the Senate, they could have attached that to something, but not the bill that we need the garage because it's going to collapse. I mean, that's like, hey, you want to pay for that water to put your firehouse out? I mean, your house out? I mean, it was so... bad. I mean, just the way they did it. Put it on something else. I mean, but 430 we just amended it. Now, normally what they do, what we've done, is you call a committee. We don't like that amendment, so we'll call a committee of conference to look at that amendment. You don't throw it onto another bill because, like Senator Bradley said, you want the garage.
And
yeah,
there were quite a few where we went ahead and went along with the Senate position. Yeah. So that was an option too. Yeah. But just so that nobody thinks the garage is about us, Store's garage is falling down.
Right, yeah.
We do need something.
Right.
So.
Because, I mean, you're in the LOB now, but you might not be next year. I mean, I was in the LOB too. I mean,
I'll probably be paying for parking somewhere else if Store's garage is our only choice. It
right.
Scares me.
Yeah, there is a... I mean, the problem is the garage supposedly is owned. It's on, if you ever in Concord, Store's garage is a street, and actually the garage is above the street. There's 2 levels above the street. And it's supposedly owned by City of Concord, but we built it, and we're paying $1 million to $2 million a year to keep it up to date, keep the upkeep.
Keep it upright.
Keep it upright. There's staircases that have signs on them, do not use. You know, emergency only. But so it's, I mean, they were trying to fix it this year, and every time they went to fix something on the roof over the second floor, which is actually the first parking floor, they put 2 levels of netting because the concrete's falling down from the 3rd level. So, I mean, it's got to go. But okay, now let's go to redistricting. We still do not have SB 200. I think I covered this a couple of weeks ago. SB 200, we covered, to the congressional redistricting. Well, and the HB 52 was the first bill we did for redistricting congressional districts. It passed. So but there were 3 different redistricting. The governor said he's going to veto, and he vetoed the 2 of them today, we heard.
Yes, he vetoed both of them today.
52 and 200. So we start filing on Wednesday, coming up, that's June 1st, except for Congress. congressional rep. They don't know what their districts are.
No, and
So-
somebody from California is drawing the maps.
Yeah, like it's ridiculous. So again, we have a problem with our governor. I mean,
Yeah.
for those who think that they voted for a Republican governor, guess what? You didn't. So hopefully that can be fixed. Also,
He vetoed the school mask prohibition bill last week. So that was the one that said that the 200 different school districts couldn't set their own policy. And if anybody was going to do it, it needed to come from the Department of Public Health.
Right.
So that was really disappointing for a lot of families in my town. Today, he vetoed 2 more bills. He vetoed House Bill 1625, which is the buffer zone around the abortion clinics. We definitely walked the gauntlet with all of the supporters and opposition heading into the House session, and we were able to make it through that buffer zone.
Yeah.
Most disappointingly, he vetoed House Bill 275, which gives a voice to the legislature in an extended state of emergency.
Right,
This
so-
was an agreement that we had last year. We didn't quite get the right language, and so he had agreed that he was going to work with us on it so we could have some language. Once you get to a certain point, I think it was 90 days, then the legislature needed to act. Because if there's still an emergency after 3 months, it's not quite as pressing as it initially was. The legislature should be able to meet. The legislature should be able to continue that state of emergency. And the legislature can suspend the rules too.
Right, yeah.
So if we were in some crazy, crazy world, the legislature would have a way to get it done.
right.
And unfortunately, the governor doesn't want the legislature to have a say in future states of emergency that aren't short-term states of emergency.
He wants to be king. It's getting really bad. So there are going to be other choices coming for a primary. So just remember this: the governor is not our friend. So hopefully we can look at something else.
It makes me sad to say that. I was really hoping he was going to work with us, and I thought
I know
he was.
he's not working with us. I mean, the previous couple years. This is his 3rd term, right?
Yes.
So the Democrats were in control of the House. So yeah, things got done because he actually proved that he's actually really not a Republican. So anyway, so that's coming up. So we have a bunch more coming. So part 2, which will be coming later, maybe this week or whatever, when you're looking at it, to look at other bills that have passed or not passed or whatever. So thank you for this session, and look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.